What are cryptocurrencies?
Hey.
What are NFTs?
A non-fungible token.
Time to buy Bitcoin.
Bitcoin just seems like a scam.
What's up, Bitcoin?
Hello everyone and welcome back to On The Ledger. This is your host Mol Sayed, back once again on your weekly rendezvous from Paris. After a short summer break, we're ready to kick off season 2 of the show. The energy's here and we've got a lot to cover. So let's get this going. Today, I'm joined by two people who made the crypto summer really hot for all DeFi users. I'm glad to welcome Konstantin Lomashuk, Lido DAO co-founder, the service that changed the life of many of us small Ethereum holders by providing an easy and accessible way to stake our ETH. Hello Konstantin, how are you?
Hi guys, happy to meet you. I'm fine.
We're also very pleased to have, for the first time on this podcast, Charles Hamel, VP Product here at Ledger. Charles, we finally made it happen. How are you, sir?
Hi, good to be here.
So I'm very kind of excited to kick this one off. Today we'll talk about how to grow your ETH, how to do it securely, explore the future of staking, and many more topics. From Paris, this is On The Ledger, Season 2, Episode 1. Here we go. As I said, very excited to talk about staking. It's a subject I'm sure many of the community, many members that are actually listening to us are interested in. And Lido is all about facilitating a wider participation in Ethereum staking economy. So let me try and set the table with what we call the not so stupid questions. Konstantin, how would you simply explain staking to the folks who might not be very familiar with the concept? And maybe tell us why you think it's disruptive.
First of all, I should mention that it is a lot of different types of staking. And staking? Staking is a mechanic where you can lock some cryptocurrency and stake your cryptocurrency. Then you do some work in this like protocol or blockchain. For example, if it is blockchain, you validate blocks, and you take some risk for it because you're running the validation nodes, for example, in blockchains. And if you do everything well, you take rewards. If you do something wrong, then you can be slashed or punished by the network. And in case of staking, you can run for example, in case of blockchains, you can run a node by yourself, or you can delegate it to professional validators, or use some service like Lido to do it. Why it's so, I think, disruptive, for example, for proof of work, first of all, it's different. And it's good that we have different type of security model for blockchains. And second, it's more, cheap, I think, to achieve the security. For example, when Ethereum will move to proof of stake, they will start to spend lower amount of ETH, and so inflation of ETH will go, emission of ETH will go down. And also, some people can say that it's more secure, and also we should say that different blockchains, proof of stake system, they're all different. They have different architecture. And for example, and in case of Ethereum, staking of Ethereum is more aligned with Ethereum holders. Why? Because stakers will receive this emission, transaction fee, and also MEV. And now it's going not to Ethereum holders, all these rewards, they're going to to miners. And miners not always aligned, for example, with Ethereum, because they cannot hold the Ethereum, they can only run equipment and sell it immediately.
Okay, so let me kind of rephrase that and tell me if I understand it correctly. Staking actually decentralizes the whole way the operational side of the blockchain is run and secured, from taking the main resource of proof of work, which is electricity, that comes runs through mining, to staking, which the main resource then becomes the ETH, so the money that people are putting at stake as a proof of stake, as it says in the wording, to provide a reassurance of their goodwill or good faith of operating the network, and basically delegating this ETH to a node, or running their own node and gaining rewards, or getting slashed if they don't do it correctly. Is that kind of it?
Yes, and also I should mention that we should like tell more about it, and also ask people to run the node by themselves. Because one of the main features why this blockchain has value, because it's decentralized and censorship resistant. And of course, it's good, like to just to stake with some professional validator, even it's more secure maybe. But it's also, like a public good. You should do something good for the network, and you should run this node by yourself. So you can run it by yourself, but you need some stake for it, or you can delegate to professional validators.
So speaking of professional validators, how does Lido facilitate staking for the normal user who might not have the sufficient amount of ETH to run their own node?
Yeah, the mission of Lido is to make staking simple, secure, and keep Ethereum and other blockchains decentralized. How Lido is achieved? So it is like, for example, if you look on Ethereum, you can't stake one Ethereum, in Ethereum. You need 32 ETH to run the node. And for example, with Lido, you can stake any amount, 0.1 ETH or 600 or 60, 100 even 1,000 ETH in one transaction. And it's simple, for user. It's important because when you integrate with wallets like Ledger, you need to give good user experience for your user. The second is that when you stake with Lido, Lido is not a staking provider. Lido is a software. It's a smart contract software, for example, on Ethereum, that redistribute your stake between many validators. So Lido do this onboarding process, choose the best validators of the market right now, and delegate your stake for now, for example, for 14 different validators. What it gives you, first of all, it gives you more security. Why? Because if you stake with one validator or by yourself, and slashing will happen, so you will lose more capital. In case of if you redistribute the stake to many validators, the risk of slashing is lower. I think. Why? Because different validators have different setups, and if one will stake, it will be like 1/15 of this risk. And in case of decentralization, it's also for you, if you have 32 ETH or 15 times 32 ETH, you need to go to each of validator. You need to stake to each of validator. You need to follow each of validator. So it's a little bit complex. And for when you stake with Lido, you immediately redistribute it to 15 validators. So it's make Ethereum more decentralized.
That's pretty clear. And speaking of ownership and decentralization, Charles, it's fair to say that Ledger is undergoing a transformation from solely being a hardware wallet, which secures private keys, to becoming a platform for all crypto services. Could you speak more to the vision behind that and how it falls into place with the integration of partners such as Lido, for instance?
So what we're doing now is, taking the app that all Ledger users have today, Ledger Live, which started as really a companion app for the hardware to set up your device, to manage your accounts, and send and receive cryptocurrency. And we're taking now this app to becoming more of a platform where, in the same app, you can access a variety of applications running on blockchains like Lido, like Paraswap, and do so in a very easy to use, integrated way, so that you don't need to go anywhere else to interact with these new kinds of services. So all the way from DeFi to lending to NFTs. Our vision is that everything should be possible to do in live. And this is a big focus of us to sort of get the best of the what's out there and integrate them in live as soon as possible. And Lido is a great kind of first example of that. Today we have about 10 dApps sort of integrated within Ledger Live, and this will accelerate in the future.
And maybe to build on that with another question, what value does Ledger add to the users and providers when you're talking about this whole kind of integrated approach?
Well, for users, it's about convenience and security, right? Because live becomes this secure gateway to all of these services. You don't need to install any other software, no extensions to set up. And you don't need to connect your wallet. Everything is connected, right? You tap on Lido, you tap on Paraswap, your wallet is connected and ready to interact. So it removes a lot of friction to use these services. And also importantly, when we do this kind of integration, we do it all the way down to the hardware, which is something really unique, which means that when you interact with Lido, with Paraswap, and any other service that's integrated, you see what you sign on the device. So it solves what we call the blind signing problem, which is when you start interacting with these kind of rich blockchain applications, it's easy to end up in a scenario where you don't really know what you're signing. And that's really important to us, that our users are in control. And users get that when they interact with the services within Live. And then from a dApp developer point of view, like Lido, right, it's really about accessing this user base that so far has had a lot of friction to access these services, right? If you've been a Ledger user so far, you were in Live, you didn't have this access. So there was lots of friction to go out of that comfort zone and access these services. Now they're integrated, which means that these developers, there's much less friction to access these services. And all of these users, they have crypto today, right? If you have a Ledger, you have crypto. All right. So then you're one click away from using that service, and that's a huge benefit for developers.
Let me circle back to something that Konstantin mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, which was related to custody. So this is a very kind of interesting point when it comes to staking in general, because as we all know, controlling the whole protocol now is all about owning the biggest stake in the protocol and the highest amount of ETH. Which is a problem when you see a lot of centralized entities, becoming active members in this whole staking mechanism. So, Konstantin, how does staking with Lido differ from staking via a centralized entity such as an exchange or a bank? And in your opinion, what are the dangers of having these big centralized entities taking part in this in staking activities?
First of all, I forget to mention in the last answer, one of the main benefits when you stake when you stake with Lido, you have staked this, you have, you have a liquid, you have a liquid token that you can exchange and withdraw. For now, you can exchange it through the curve pool and receive your ETH back. It can be, as a price can be dependent on the market or price. And later, when withdrawals will be available, you can redeem your staked ETH and receive your ETH back with the staking rewards. And also, you have a staking rewards daily, so you don't need to wait until you don't need to wait until withdrawals will be available. You can receive staking rewards right now. And back to your question, for now, centralized services like big exchanges, they have about, for example, in Ethereum, more than 40% of the stake that stakes through them. First of all, they are custodies, and you have this risk that, they can so you not hold their private keys, and so exchanges hold your private keys, and something can happen. The second is that usually they run, the staking with one provider, and it's also, as you have slashing risk in this case, that is pretty big. Maybe some exchanges can cover this risk, but it's also bad. And the third one is that one day it can happen that some government can try to ask some exchanges, large companies, to censor some of the transactions. And this is, the worst case what can happen. And that's why, we need to keep this blockchain decentralized. it's the biggest value of the blockchains. And so we need to run your own nodes, stake with the professional validators, or use Lido, and they will do it for you.
Yeah, it's kind of what we always say is not your keys, not your coins. And this is actually a perfect transition because now that we've spoken of the past and the present, we're gonna, have a glimpse into the future. So Charles, it seems like self-custody is key to the decentralization, security, and ultimately the success of this ecosystem. How do you envision the future of hardware wallets and their role to play in a decentralized way of adopting crypto en masse?
So the way I look at it is there's going to be a convergence in two directions. There's going to be convergence towards self-custody, and I believe specifically hardware self-custody, because of the software solutions, and we're seeing it more and more now with all kinds of new types of attacks, is software self-custody is inherently vulnerable. So self-custody has to be hardware. And on the other side, there will be a convergence towards centralized solution. Inevitably, like in all industry, there will be consolidation. Right? So I see that the future evolves in these two directions, where you have hardware self-custody on one side and centralized solutions on the other. And it's very important that this is in balance, right? That hardware self-custody, it has a thriving future and is used en masse for kind of the promise of this whole tech to be fulfilled and not be just another centralized solution. So I think hardware has a crucial role to play in this, and obviously we at Ledger, we want to make this a reality, and we want this hardware to be basically the way you bring your own keys to Web3, right? Wherever it is, right? We're doing a big effort to integrate a bunch of services within Live, but ultimately, keys will be used in all kinds of scenarios, both in the physical world and in the online world. And we want this key to be the key you use for everything in all these scenarios. So security will be even more important in this world. And yeah, we want to be kind of the key to all of this.
I think the key point of the discussion here is all about user experience. And if people, resort to centralized services now is because they provide a better user experience for the user. But with as you mentioned, the different evolutions that we're seeing at the moment is that decentralized services are also catching up and starting to provide an integrated and secure, and also self-custody is an important aspect of the whole experience. So yeah, maybe speaking of user experience, Konstantin, aside from Ethereum, Lido's enriching its offering by also integrating with famous proof-of-stake blockchains such as Terra and Solana. What does the future of Lido look like?
Yeah, so for now, Lido has 3 products. It has Stake This, has Stake Solana, just launched 1 week ago, and also it has a stake. It's not Stake Terra, it's B-Luna. It's a pretty different product because it was launched to use in Anchor protocol in Terra ecosystem. But also we are working on a second version of B-Luna, and it will work similar like Stakes Ethereum. And also, we have a proposal, and some teams are already working on Stake Dot, Stake Kusama, Staked Matic, and some other blockchains. So it is a lot of different teams, because it's important to make Lido decentralized. And how Lido achieve it? It has different, core teams or teams who are working on different liquid staking solution, and they launch, for example, this solution, and then they support the solution to integrate in different DeFi protocols.
Okay, so I guess the question that naturally comes to mind is, will Ledger be looking to support other Lido offerings in the future, Charles?
So what's important to understand is that Live, as much as we're integrating services within it today. Live is in itself a platform where other blockchains and blockchain teams can build upon and add support for their blockchains. So this is really another big focus, in our teams recently, is to really surface this capability that Live is an open source project on GitHub where foundations can come in and add support for their blockchains, and we support them all the way. So as we add more chains to Ledger Live, it only makes sense to extend this integration further.
So for all the different devs listening to us, come build on Ledger Live.
Yeah, come build on Ledger. The door is open.
Cool. So for this last segment of the show, I've actually decided to share my power with you and have you ask each other one question each. This is kind of our own way of participating in decentralization. So, feel free to go first.
Okay. Well, what I'm wondering the most about Lido is how you got this initial traction, because there was such a timing aspect to both the release of the deposit contract on ETH, the release of Lido, getting this initial kind of credibility and trust that these contracts are safe to interact with, and getting this initial liquidity on board. How did you do that? The timing and this kind of initial network effects. I'm very curious to hear if you have any tips there to share or your experience.
Yeah, thanks, Charles. Good question. So, before we start to work on Lido, we are running our own validator called P2P.org, and we already launched different networks from 2018. So we launched Tezos, Cosmos, Polkadot, many other networks, and we had this experience to launch a new network and to be the leader. For example, P2P.org, one of the biggest staking provider in Polkadot, one of the biggest in the Graph, in Solana, and some other networks. And to achieve it, you need to understand the problem of your, clients, your delegators, your community, and when we spoke with all this, who already staking with P2P.org, all these people, all our partners. So they told us, we understood that the biggest issue of them, because, in crypto, staking rewards, are lower than volatility. And it is a big issue for many people. Why? Because they want to stake, they want to contribute to decentralization. They really love what they hold. But from other side, if it is an investment and they want to go out of this investment and you have unstaking period, you can lose more than you have from staking rewards. For example, volatility in crypto can be more than 100%, and it's more, yes, on almost all coins. And your staking rewards is 5 or 7%. And it is, and then what I try to say is that it's not really for some of users is profitable to stake if they're short-term investors, for example. But we target more long-term investors and big holders. So, and when we spoke with these people, we understood this issue of liquidity. And so when we launched Lido, and it was a DAO from day one, because we understood that we can't launch, and it was also a problem for us. We didn't want to work on another product. We were happy with P2P.org. We love what we are doing. And we love our mission, and we have a good team. And we didn't want to, launch another product. But we understood if we launch, for example, staking is from P2P.org, it will be centralized, it will be bad for Ethereum, it will be bad product. And that's why we find partners who also are validators, like Certus, they just joined Jump Trading, like some other validators, one of the best one on the market, like Horus, like staking facilities, Stakefish, some other. And we came to them and said, let's launch it together. I mean, we bring value when the network is decentralized. And so we find the way where we win together. And so we came together, launched Lido, work on liquidity together. And now Lido is decentralized, is governed by token holders, and the product is working. And if, for example, tomorrow something happens with me and with all like P2P team, you know, I mean, Lido will keep working. So, and it's really amazing.
That's actually quite interesting, and yeah, I think it ties back to what we were saying. The trade-offs in between, decentralization actually offering a product that has a good user experience. Konstantin, it's your turn to ask Charles a question, so feel free to go.
Yeah, I have one. So, Ledger is a leading hardware wallet. It's the biggest, and only one, I think, solution of how you can really hold like a lot of different crypto on your hardware wallet. And it is a big responsibility for you. How you work with it, it's really, I think, difficult to be secure, and to keep this responsibility. Yeah. So can you tell me what are you doing with it? Yeah.
Sure. You're right. I mean, security is really core to Ledger, right? If you boil it down to a few words, security is certainly at the top. And it's really something that has been there since the inception of the company, right? Where it was coming from basically smart card security technology being used in another context, and that has evolved tremendously since then. But security goes all the way back to the origin of Ledger, and this is something that we have a lot of resources internally, doing research on our own products, trying to break our own products, but also breaking all kinds of other products in marketplace, so that we as a kind of security industry can really up the standard. So this tremendous amount of research and attention to detail when developing these new products. And we have a whole security team which also publishes all their findings and research on the Donjon website, which I invite you to look up. They have the best lab with the best equipment to break hardware devices.
I think that's kind of the perfect way to end it. Check out the Donjon. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope we can do this again sometime soon.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for good questions.
Bye.
That's it. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to learn more about staking with Lido, be sure to check Ledger Academy out, explore the discovery section in Ledger Live, and reach out if you have any questions. On the Ledger Season 2 is just getting started, and we've got some pretty cool things ahead. So hit that subscribe button if that's what you're into. This was On the Ledger from Paris with your host Mol Sayed. Till next time, take care. Au revoir. This content is provided for informational purposes only and is the sole expression of our opinion and should not be relied upon as legal, business, investment, or tax advice. Do your own research. Any loss or profit is your sole responsibility. Stay safe.